Hey you guys, it's Peter and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. And today I want to do a review of the newest book by Steve Kavanaugh, and the book is called Kill for Me, Kill for You. And let me tell you how I found this book, first of all. I am somebody that takes a lot of recommendations from other people. I'm constantly asking people, like, what's a great book to read? What's a great thriller? Or what's a great cozy mystery? And so if two or three people recommend the same book to me, I'm like, okay, I need to read this book. For those of you that have watched me for a while, you know I love two kinds of books. I love thrillers, and I love a really, really good mystery thriller that you have to kind of figure out. And I love cozy mysteries. Those are probably the two kind of books that I consistently read. And this year I have read almost all thrillers. I've read a cozy mystery here or there, and I'm trying to get more into that as the summer goes. The late summer, early fall is kind of my cozy mystery time. Around Halloween and Christmas, I love to read cozy mysteries. So I've been reading a lot of thrillers, and a couple people on my vlog recommended to me to read Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. I had never heard of Steve Kavanaugh before. I didn't know anything about him. There's a lot of people that people recommend to me. For example, a couple people had recommended to me None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, which is the newest book by Lisa Jewell. I had never heard, I think I had seen her, like, her books at bookstores before and stuff like that, or on the bestseller list, but I didn't know anything about her. I'd never read one of her books before. And so I listened to None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell and instantly became a fan of her work. And in fact, last night, I need to do an Audible haul over here because I have been purchasing, like, every 2 or 3 days. I've been buying books. Just last night I went in and I bought 5 more credits on Audible, and I've just been like buying books like crazy. Getting ready to hibernate this fall and winter, listening to audiobooks and getting back into my walks that I've been doing and stuff like that, and that's a big part of me, listening to audiobooks. And I've really, really been loving like walking and listening to audiobooks, and so I'm trying to get back into that again. But anyway, on my vlog, a couple people had recommended to me, I think I said on one vlog, like, what's a good thriller I should read, and like 2 or 3 people recommended to me the Steve Kavanaugh book. And then over here, I think when I was like asking for what books to pick for the next month for Peter's Book Club for like June or May or something like that, a couple people like DM'd me and recommended the Steve Kavanaugh book. And then my friend Nikki got it from the library, and she was reading it. And she was like, oh my God, this is such a great thriller. I finished it like in a couple days. You've got to read it. You're going to love it, right? And usually, like, if I have friends of mine that we read very similar books and love the same kind of books, and then I have other friends of mine that we read and like very different books. Like, for example, my best friend Tanya, she is an avid reader. She reads like a book a day. As far as thrillers, we typically like the same thrillers, but then she reads these extensive epic pieces. She also loves like Kristen Hanna. I'm not a big Kristen Hanna fan. Well, I haven't read anything by Kristen Hanna, but like, I think I bought one of her books and I like tried to get into it and I just couldn't. But she loves all those like deep stories that go into generations, you know, and to Tanya, like, a perfect book is a book that's like 1,000 pages, that's like really heavy and you can get into it. For me, a perfect book is about 200 or 300 pages, you know, that you get into it and then you get out of it and you remember the story. So I didn't really know what to think about this book, and so I got it on Audible and I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to it. And I believe, let me look on here on the dates of when I started it. Since I finished the book on June 27th. So I listened to it when I was on vacation for my husband's birthday. And I finished it, I do remember now. I finished it coming back on the plane that night is when I finished it, because that was the day that we got back, was the 27th. So let me read you the description for Kill for Me, Kill for You by Steve Kavanaugh. For fans of The Silent Patient and Gone Girl, a razor-sharp and Hitchcock-inspired, and I love Hitchcock movies, so when I read this, I was like, okay, I'm sold. Hitchcock-inspired psychological thriller about 2 ordinary women who make a dangerous pact to take revenge for each other after being pushed to the brink. One dark evening on New York City's Upper West Side, 2 strangers meet by chance. Over drinks, Amanda and Wendy realize that they have much in common, especially loneliness and an intense desire for revenge against the men who destroyed their families. As they talk into the night, they come up with the perfect, if you kill for me, I'll kill for you. In another part of the city, Ruth is home alone when the beautiful brownstone she shares with her husband, Scott, is invaded. She's attacked by a man with piercing blue eyes who disappears into the night. Will she ever be able to feel safe again while the blue-eyed stranger is out there? Intricate, heart-racing, reading from an author who is the real deal. Lee Child, #1, New York Times bestselling author, said, "Kill for Me, Kill for You will keep you breathless until the final page." Okay, so it's been, 2 weeks since I've read this book, so I'm going to have to kind of remember a little bit about it. But I wanted to do a review of this. I'm trying to do a review of all the books that I read going forward. So if that's something that you enjoy, whatever. But this will be a spoiler review, so I'm going to share the spoilers in this. The thing for me is, and I ended up giving it, I think, 4 stars. It's interesting because my friend Tanya read this afterwards, and she loved it. She was like, "Oh my God, I just read this book." And I was like, "What is it?" And she was like, "Kill for Me, Kill for You." I was like, "Oh, I just finished that." I was like, "What did you think?" She was like, "It was one of the best thrillers I've ever read." My friend Nikki loved this book. I felt like part of the book, and I think this is probably because I read so many thrillers, a lot of it to me seemed predictable, but I didn't know what, I could tell that something was going to happen, and I could kind of piece together, let's say, 2 out of the 3 parts, but I couldn't figure out the 3rd part of it. So the ending of it to me was good, but it wasn't like, oh my God, like jaw-dropping to me. And I think that's why I kept it a 4 instead of a 5. Like when I, other books that I've read, let me go back in here to my reading, hold on a second, that I've given 5s to this year. What was the first one I read? Hold on a second. That was on Reese's Book Club. Confidence, which was the 2nd book by Denise Mina. I love that one. First Fly Wins by Ashley Elston. I thought that book was a fantastic thriller. I mean, I've read so many. House in the Pines was not good. I've read so many. The Housemaid and The Housemaid's Secret by Frida McFadden. I have the 3rd one. I haven't listened to it yet. I love those. Lisa Jewell, None of This Is True. I mean, I thought these were such fantastic thrillers. And so for me, I was a little bit kind of like, oh, let me get back into this. I was a little bit kind of like, I mean, it was good, but it wasn't great. And so what the book is about, hold on just a second. One of the girls' name's Wendy. That's not really her name. Where does it say? Hold on a second. 2 strangers over drinks, Amanda and Wendy. Okay, so they meet in this like support group for people that have had like tragedies that have happened to them. And Amanda has had this huge tragedy happen to her where her I believe it's her, like, daughter is, like, kidnapped and then murdered, and then after that, her husband wasn't watching. Was it her daughter or son? I don't even remember at this point, but I think it's her daughter, and her husband wasn't watching, and so, like, a week later, he takes his life, and so she's, like, lost her entire life, and so she's, like, the main character in it, and then she meets Wendy in the support group that's, like, this, like, chain smoker, doesn't follow rules and whatever, and she really gravitates towards her because she seems, like, so vulnerable and raw, and she really likes her, and so she meets her, and she kind of, like, starts looking into her and stuff like that, and she finds out that this man, like, allegedly this, like, teacher, like, killed her daughter and all this other kind of stuff, and assaulted and killed her daughter, and that there was no justice that was ever found. And in either case, there's no justice, even though they know who the people are, right? And so, like, the police investigations and all that kind of stuff, these people got off. In the case with Amanda, it's because the man had a lot of money. And in the other case, it's because there just wasn't enough evidence and things like that. And so Amanda brings it to Wendy. She, like, suggests it. Like, well, you know, like, what if we kind of did each other a favor? And Wendy's kind of like, let me think about it for a little bit. And I already knew, like, as soon as this happened, I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. One of them's going to kill the other person for the other person, and then the other person's not going to follow through with it. So when I was there, I kind of was like, okay, that seems predictable, but I didn't know how it was going to work out. Then what happens is Wendy says to Amanda, they like meet a couple times and all this kind of stuff. They go to, Amanda stays at Wendy's apartment. She sees this like crime board that she's got up about the man that like killed her daughter and all this kind of stuff. And so she takes all this stuff for real. She finds out later that all that's been faked. All this online stuff's been faked and whatever, right? At the same time that all this is going on, what's the other woman's name? I think her name was like Beth, wasn't it? It says Ruth. Why did I think her name was Beth? Is her name Beth? Like, it changes in the book. But anyway, maybe her real name is Beth. But Ruth is, she is in her house, and she gets attacked by this guy that she calls a blue-eyed stranger. And he comes to, like, kill her, and then he, like, runs out and all this kind of stuff. And so she's constantly looking for this blue-eyed stranger. She and her husband, who used to be a prosecutor, he is, like, trying to protect her and all this kind of stuff, and she basically doesn't know what to do, and she constantly is always looking for somebody, and her husband thinks that like, she sees him in a restaurant. She's like, that's him, because he says something to her about, like, the same thing he said to her when he attacked her, which was something to the effect of, good night, sweetheart, or something like that. And so she's like, that's the man, that's the man. And so he ends up going to this guy's hotel room and killing him, and it's the wrong guy. And she has no remorse. And she's like, well, other people need to suffer the way that I've suffered out there. And so it's her constantly looking for somebody that has kind of blue eyes, but you don't really figure that out until the end. I never really put her story together with Wendy's story until the very end. But Wendy comes to Amanda and she says, okay, are you going to be at the support group tomorrow night? And she's like, yeah. And she goes, okay, make sure you're there. And I knew in that moment that Wendy was going to kill Amanda's person for her. I just knew that. This old guy that had a lot of money and all this kind of stuff. I knew that that was going to be what was going to happen. So then, when that happens, and Wendy doesn't show up to the support group, Amanda kind of puts two and two together, but not really. She, like, goes to continue. She follows this guy every day, and she follows him, and he doesn't show up. And in that moment, for some reason, this is why it just felt predictable to me. I was like, she didn't really kill him. Like, she's done something to, like, distract him, but he's not really dead. Because then she meets with her, and she says, you have to kill my guy tonight. Like, you have to do it tonight. In that moment, I was like, she didn't kill this guy. Like, he got distracted. She did something to him and whatever. And you find out later that she did. Like, she, like, tied him up or whatever. I can't remember what happens. But anyway, so then this other woman goes to kill the guy and this other guy and all this kind of stuff. And, so at that point, she's kind of, like, become friendly, and, like, he attacks her and all this kind of stuff, and there was this guy parked out in front. And so, anyway, this guy and her, and they get together, and then she finds out that Wendy has just, like, vanished. And that none of this stuff online was true. That nothing that she found out online was true about the case involving her daughter. In fact, there really never was a daughter. And none of that stuff was true. And she made up this whole story, and she doesn't really understand it. And so she meets this guy, and basically the same thing happened with him that happened to her. Like, she sought him out to kill somebody for her if she would kill somebody for him. It was the exact same thing. And what happens at the very end is that you find out that it's this Ruth that was attacked in her house, and she's been Wendy and all these other people, and she's basically just constantly trying to, like, find the blue-eyed man and all this kind of stuff. And at the very end, the guy that this woman has befriended, he, like, sends her to a concert. I can't remember what the concert was now. I thought it was kind of funny when I was reading it. But anyway, because I just, like, when I just gone to the Stevie Nicks concert, so it was something like, why can't I think of what the concert was? Somebody put it in the comment section below. But anyway, so he tells her to take a friend, and she's like, well, you're not going to go. And he's like, no. So she goes to this concert. I don't even think they have that conversation. He just sends her to the concert. And so he sees this Ruth person because they seek out the psychiatrist and all this other kind of stuff. And, I mean, it's 10 times more extensive than what I'm telling you. But anyway, so he sends her to this concert, then it's like him and Ruth face to face, and he's confronting her, and he takes out his contacts, and his eyes are blue. And so what you know is all along, he's the guy that she's been looking for, okay, that attacked her in her home. And then he finally, like, kills her and lets her go. But at that point, you can't hate him. Like, it's so weird that you, like, don't hate the ultimate villain in the story, because she's been so crazy and so nuts, like, affecting all these people's lives. And so you're just kind of, like, ready for it all to be over. And then, like, he disappears, and she's at the concert, and that's kind of how it ends. I thought it was good. I felt like it wasn't predictable. Like, I knew exactly what was going to happen. Like, Nikki said to me, you knew he was going to take his contacts out. Like, I didn't know he was going to take his contacts out. I didn't know it was him at the end. Like, it took a while, right? Like, when he was talking to when they were talking to the psychiatrist, or he sent her in, I knew that there had to be some connection there. And so I was like, or he sent her in. I was like, I knew that there had to be some connection there, like, with him. I knew he was a deeper part of the story, but I couldn't put it together. I never really, to be honest with you, especially when you figure out that this Wendy woman is just picking out blue-eyed guys, I really never thought that we were going to see the blue-eyed guy. So that was very much a surprise to me. But through all of it, no, I wasn't, like, I mean, it was a good thriller. I think also, like, it went, like, in this direction, then back in this direction, so you never really knew where you were going with it. And I listened to it very, very quickly. So, for me, it was fast-paced. It was good. I mean, I would recommend this book to a lot of people. It's a lot better than a lot of thrillers that I read, and it was a lot more genius than a lot of thrillers I had read. I think that had I not just, what was the book that I finished before? It was The Thursday Murder Club, because I was kind of, The Thursday Murder Club I had just finished before this, and I was really so much into, like, the cozy mystery, and Thursday Murder Club is a very smart, I mean, it's not on the level of genius like this thriller was, but it's a very smart mystery and character development and stuff like that. And so I think I was kind of comparing it to that a little bit. I was also kind of comparing it to the Lisa Jewell book. And Lisa Jewell's book, None of This Is True, is brilliant. And, you know, I've read so many thrillers that are like 5 out of 5s this year for me. And the Freida McFadden books, I just love. I didn't think I would. I was like, the Housemaid book, I'd seen it like on the bestseller list forever. I was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. And then I read it. I just was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And that's those are other books where they seem like they're predictable, like you think you know what's going to happen, then it's not what you think is going to happen. And that's very much this. And even if you haven't read the book and you want to read it, like my review is not going to completely ruin it for you because there's so much more to this book than that. So anyway, I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. I have to tell you, the more I talk to people about it, the more I'm like, yeah, it was better than I thought it was. When I finished it, I was like, oh, that was a good book. I wasn't just like, I was like, that was a good book, but I wasn't like, oh my God, I have to recommend that to everybody. When I read Listen to the Lie, I was like, oh my God, everybody has to read this book. When I finished the Lisa Jewell book, I was like, everybody has to read this book. I wasn't like that. My opinions kind of changed a little bit since I've talked to people since I finished it, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I guess it was better than I thought it was, but not enough to put it over to a 5-star for me. It still remains a 4. I will read other stuff of his, and my friend Nikki just got some of his other books. And I know other people that have read his stuff. So if you have another Steve Kavanaugh book that you would recommend to me, please put it in the comment section below. Let me know what you thought of this book. I mean, it was good. It just wasn't the best thriller that I've read this year. So anyway, but, you know, I've consistently been able to read really great thrillers and mysteries this year, and I'm really grateful for that. So anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.